Good afternoon, all. Happy Friday, and welcome to today's Open Classroom Civil Designer Software webinar. I trust everyone is well. Similar to yesterday, under our new revised format, Friday are now reserved for the Design Center module, which is Civil Designer's user platform module. And this Friday, Andrew Cole will be your facilitator. As always, please feel free to use the text chat service on your GoToWebinar floating dialog to ask us any questions you may have during Andrew's presentation. So without further delay, Andrew, please take it away.
Good day and welcome to today's Design Center webinar. The main focus since the launch of Civil Designer 8 was to optimize your drawing space. So you can see the flyouts we introduced for the control center, which can be pinned open if need be. The properties bar is also a flyout, and then the output window at the bottom. So basically just to increase your drawing space and optimize the area that you can work in. Additionally, we gave you quite a few new themes. As you can see in system settings, appearance, under the appearance section, or visual styles to change the look of your Civil Designer interface. I'll just try this Office 2010 black style just to let you have a look. It's a bit dark for me, so I'm just going to go back to system settings and to appearance and just set it back to the 2007 silver style. Okay, then just in settings, system settings, just to show you the other fundamental change under the appearance was the multiple document interface tab. So you can have tabs for all your drawings, just to tab through them. And then we've also introduced a tabbed toolbar system, where all your toolbars would be positioned on this bar at the top here. You can add and remove toolbars from that bar as needed. The multiple document interface, you can still go back to the old Windows system, but the tab system is probably a more user-friendly system. One reason that you might consider going back to the standard document interface is if you want to tile your road plan view and the cross-section view. You could do this manually, but if you want the automatic vertical or horizontal tiling, I'll just show you here in roads. If I go to section graphical edit, for example, you'd have to resize those windows yourself. But if you're using that standard document interface system, then you can tile your project vertically, and it will tile the plan view of your drawing, and then the cross-section dialog would have its own space. So I'm just going to pan down the road and set the auto panning on as well. For those of you that are not aware of this function, you just use the page down to move from one cross section to the next, and then the plan view would move and update to show that position of the cross section in plan. Okay, so I'm just going to close that and then go back to my system settings, to appearance, and I'm going to set it back to the tabbed multiple document interface. Okay, then there are just two more things that I want to touch on in those settings, system settings. The one being the menu display, which allows you to introduce almost like a ribbon type of pull down menu system. So if you check this in enable menu breaking, you can set the number of pull down items on those menus. So per column in this case there are 10 that I've set. I think 10 is the minimum that you can use per column. I'm just going to uncheck that. I'm used to the position of those menu items in the longer list. So the recent file list, you can also set how many recent drawings you would like to see in the recent file list. And then you have the option of either limiting that length of the file name or unchecking that so that you would then be able to see the whole file path, exactly which folder, which drive that drawing is in, which can sometimes be quite useful. The other setting that I want to look at finally in system settings is that image tiling setting. So it allows you to save all your image tiles to one place, but the second checkbox at the bottom here allows you to load or insert ECW and Mr. SID images without creating the BBF files. So it makes for a much faster insertion of your bigger image files. So I'm going to open up this image project of mine, and I'm going to be inserting an image, and just to show you how big this image is, that's aerial photograph, and the size of this image is big. It's 26, almost 27 gigabytes. And you can see they are quickly it loads, probably less than a second. I'll just zoom in a bit so you can see the resolution, so quite a high resolution photograph. Okay, so I want to work with this image and we're going to do some image clipping, but just initially I want to show you this black background. There's a way to change the background masking. So I'm selecting the image, and in properties, in the properties bar, there is a transparent background setting that you can activate. So I just have to switch that over to yes to have a transparent background. But the color then also needs to be set. So at the bottom here, there is a pick background color. So I would select that black background color, and then that color would then be transparent and show your screen color through it. Okay, so that looks a little bit neater. Okay, the image clipping I want to do down here in the hardware area. So what I'm going to use are some named viewports. So if you go to view, viewport, named viewports, that's the viewport manager. You can see I've predefined a few named viewports for this particular project. So you would just select it and show it out of the viewport manager. And then those first 9, you can also use the hotkeys along the top of the keyboard to zoom into those areas. So the named viewport is very useful to zoom into an area that you're working in, or to be used in your paper space layouts as well. I'm going to define a viewport for this hardware area. So view, viewports, and define a named viewport. Just call it hot bay, accept, and I'm just going to define roughly the area with the first corner. So the prompt is click on the first corner of your rectangle and your second corner. And then I can just escape. That function just repeats. Okay, I'm just using the zoom name viewport function to zoom into my hot bay viewport. Okay, and then what I want to do is I've earlier snipped out a smaller section out of the big image for hot bay. So I'm going to insert that smaller cropped image, and then I'll use that smaller cropped image to show you how to use that image crop function. So I'm just deleting the larger image, and then we're going to work with this smaller hot bay image. Image cropping function, which allows you to snip out a portion of an image and save this as a totally separate image file with the associated positioning world file. I'm going to draw a rectangle to show you how the add custom clip to image has worked up to now. You would generally select your image, right click and add custom clip to image, and then select the polyline or ellipse that define the portion of your image that you wanted to display, as you can see on the screen. The only problem was then you still had the whole full image working in the background. So I'm just going to undo and undo those changes to show you the new cropped image functionality. So I'm going to zoom into this area over here, my redraw area. I click to select the image and then right click and select the saved cropped image option. I then get prompted for the upper left hand corner and then the bottom right hand corner. Okay, and then I need to name and save this new image file to a folder. I'll just call it soccer field. Save. And then you get confirmation that the image file and the world file have been created. I can now load this new image file into my project. So insert image. And I select the soccer field and the image is tiled and loaded. And thanks to that positioning world file, the image is inserted exactly in the correct position. We can just have a look at these roads to see how neatly it ties in. Okay, so I'm relatively happy with that positioning. I can now zoom into that area of the image, and then I can actually delete the larger image file, which is still selected, and then just focus in on this portion that I need to work with. Okay, and then I just want to show you in File Explorer how the image file size has been reduced. The new soccer field JPEG is about 10 megs compared to the initial file that I used that is about 1,500 megabytes. And then note the positioning file, the JGW, with the correct insert coordinates and those pixel distances. So it's the same pixel size as the original image, so you don't lose any picture quality. Okay, I'm going to move on to some of the recent layer settings improvements. So I'm just opening up another drawing to use for this exercise. This is my normal Eastmore project. You can see the platforms from earlier. So the normal settings, your layer settings, you can access from the pull down menu, or you could go on the main toolbar as well to the icon layer settings, and then the shortcut is to right click on the current layer. A right click on that current layer window launches the layer settings. So just to show you, there isn't any XREF layers that are visible because we don't have any XREFs in this drawing at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load an XREF using the project settings. So I'm going to change my application to one of the Civil design applications, go to project settings, and I'm adding an XREF. The first survey XREF drawing would be loaded into that initial project settings checkbox if you're using the XREF manager. Okay, so now I've loaded an XREF. So if I go back to the layer settings, you'll see we've now allowed for a separate group XREF layer filter. So it'll show you all your XREF layers separately, automatically, and then your non-XREF layers. And then all the layers grouped together, both the normal and the XREF layers. Okay, so that's enhancement as far as your filtering and grouping goes in the layers. Then I'll show you some more layer improvements. Just opening another drawing. Okay, so generally with the adding of a layer, adding a new layer, it adds it at the bottom of the list of layers. But now we've added an insert new layer. So that's improvement. So you can insert it at any position. You would just select a layer and then it inserts it below that particular point. You can still move your layers up and down, etc. If I make that my current layer, I just want to show you as well. If I go back to layer settings, there is a recent file, so it keeps a track of all your recent current layers, the recent active layers. Okay, I'm just scrolling down as well, just to show you down here. I've got a slab layer. I'm just gonna maybe move that around and then okay. And that was quite far down in the layer list. So if I go back to my layers now, you can see it keeps that in memory. So the last view when you closed your layer settings would be the one that's active. Another enhancement is the changing of your bi-layer color for multiple layers. So you would select the layers that you'd like to change the bi-layer color for, and then right click on that color column, and then you could change the color for those multiple layers. Thank you very much. That's all I've got for today. Cheers.
Thank you, Andrew. That was great. Sometimes just setting up and understanding how to use the basic tools in your design environment can go a long way to improving design efficiency. Thank you to all who attended today. Please remember to renew your work from home licenses and follow the Civil Designer page on LinkedIn. See you all on Tuesday at the same time and same place using the same link for our weekly survey and terrain class. Thank you. Have a great weekend and goodbye.